It all started with a feeling. Not proof. Not evidence. Just a feeling. You know how sometimes your gut whispers things before your brain dares to accept them? That's how it was with me. A shift so small, so subtle, most people would never notice. But when you've spent years listening to someone's voice, memorizing every rise and fall, every softness and edge, you feel it. For me, it was in the way Laura started saying, "I'll be out for lunch with a friend." Her tone had changed. There was this gentleness, almost forced, that hadn't been there before. I'd heard her voice when it was sharp, when it was tired, when it was happy, and when it was bored. But this was different. This was cautious. And the strange part? If I had never known her so deeply, I would have missed it. But when you've been married 8 years, 8 long years of morning coffees, of late-night whispers, of shared laughter and bitter fights, you notice. We weren't perfect. I knew that. Who is? We argued about bills. We disagreed about how to spend weekends. Sometimes I wanted quiet, she wanted noise. But beneath all that, I thought we were solid. Unshakable. Until the night everything changed. It was late. She'd gone to bed early. Her phone was on the couch beside me, buzzing faintly with a new message. I wasn't snooping. Honestly, I wasn't. But when the screen lit up, my eyes caught just 3 words before it faded again. Can't stop thinking. I froze. My heart hammered in my chest. When she came back for her phone, I asked casually, forcing a smile, "Who's that?" She laughed, but it wasn't her usual laugh. It was nervous, thin. "Oh, nothing. Just a group chat. You know how girls are." And just like that, she brushed it aside. But lying there next to her that night, staring at the ceiling while she breathed peacefully beside me, I knew. Something was wrong. Very, very wrong. Weeks passed. Her lunch dates grew more frequent. Her excuses became vaguer. And my gut, it screamed louder. I'm not proud of what I did next. But sometimes, when trust has been cracked wide open, suspicion seeps into every corner of your mind until you can't breathe. One afternoon, while she showered, I unlocked her phone. My hands shook as I scrolled. And there it was. Not just texts. Not innocent jokes. Explicit messages. Emotional confessions. Pictures. His name was Eric. And suddenly, everything made sense. Eric wasn't just a fling. He wasn't a stranger. He was her colleague. A man she saw often under the guise of work. Their messages weren't just about stolen kisses or hotel rooms. They were about feelings. Affection. Dreams. Secrets. The kind of things she used to share with me. I felt like the air had been punched out of me. I wanted to vomit. To scream. To smash the phone against the wall. But instead, I sat there in silence, the weight of betrayal pressing down on me like a stone. For days, I carried it alone. Should I confront her? Should I leave? Should I beg her to explain? But the longer I stayed silent, the more one thought consumed me. If she can lie so easily, I can plan just as carefully. That was when the idea of revenge began to bloom. And once it did, there was no stopping it. It began with a gut feeling. Not evidence. Not facts. Not even something I could point at. Just a whisper. A whisper in the back of my mind that wouldn't leave me alone. You see, when you've lived with someone for almost a decade, you don't just hear their words. You hear the spaces between them. You learn the difference between a casual smile and a forced one. Between a laugh that bubbles up naturally and one that hides something underneath. That's what happened with Laura. My wife. My partner. My best friend. Or at least I thought she was. We'd been married for 8 years. 8 long years of routines and rituals. Our morning coffees, her singing softly in the shower, me reading the newspaper at the table, her hand always brushing against mine as she passed by. I thought I knew her better than anyone else in the world. But then slowly, almost imperceptibly, something changed. It started with her voice. When she'd say, "I'll be out for lunch with a friend." The words themselves were harmless. Ordinary. But the way she said them wasn't. Her tone carried a softness I'd never heard before. An almost careful kind of gentleness. It was the kind of softness that only stands out if you've heard its opposite. The sharpness, the bite of an argument. The frustrations that real marriages bring. And that's the thing about marriage. You think you've dulled each other's edges with time. You think you've learned every nuance. So when a new one slips in, no matter how small, you feel it. I told myself I was imagining things, that it was stress, that I was paranoid. But deep down I knew. Then came the late-night text. She'd gone to bed early that evening. Her phone was still on the couch beside me, buzzing with a new message. I didn't mean to look. I wasn't snooping. But when the screen lit up, my eyes caught the first few words before it dimmed again. Can't stop thinking. My chest tightened. My hands went cold. It wasn't from a name I recognized. When Laura returned to grab her phone, I tried to play it casual. Who's that? I asked. She laughed. But it wasn't her usual laugh. It was thin, nervous. Oh, just a group chat. You know how girls are. And that was it. She brushed it off like it was nothing. But lying in bed beside her that night, staring at the ceiling while she slept peacefully beside me, I knew it wasn't nothing. It was the beginning of everything unraveling. Over the next few weeks, her lunches with friends became more frequent. Her explanations grew vaguer. She started guarding her phone in ways she never had before, always face down on the table, notifications silenced, a subtle flicker of panic whenever it buzzed around me. And my gut, it screamed louder and louder. Until one afternoon I broke. I'm not proud of what I did next. But betrayal has a way of corroding trust until all that's left is suspicion. She was in the shower. Her phone was on the dresser. And my hands moved before I could convince myself otherwise. I unlocked it. My heart thundering. My palms slick with sweat. And what I found, it shattered me. The texts weren't innocent. They weren't playful. They were explicit. They were intimate. They were everything a husband prays his wife will never send to another man. His name was Eric. And as I scrolled, the truth came crashing down. Eric wasn't just a fling. He wasn't just some stranger from the internet. He was her colleague, a man she saw almost every day, hiding in plain sight behind work projects and collaborations. Their messages weren't about stolen moments. They were about feelings, confessions, affection, words drenched in the same intimacy Laura once shared only with me. The kind of connection I thought was still ours. And in that instant, something inside me broke. I wanted to confront her immediately, to scream, to demand answers. But instead, I sat there in silence, my hands trembling, my chest heavy, because it wasn't just betrayal I felt. It was humiliation. I had been pouring myself into this marriage, believing in us, fighting for us, and all the while, she had been giving pieces of herself to someone else. Someone who wasn't me. For days, I carried the knowledge like a poison in my veins. Should I walk away? Should I beg her to explain? Should I pack a bag and leave everything behind? But the longer I stayed silent, the more another thought began to grow inside me. If she could lie so easily, I could plan just as carefully. And that's when it started. The idea of revenge. A dangerous seed. One that, once planted, grew faster than I could have imagined.